So guys, a quick recap of what we did the other day. The very first thing that we did was the definition of the word cost. Costing, guys, cost object, cost unit, and unit cost. Cost is the total expenditure that is attributable, guys, to manufacturing of a product or rendering of a service. Costing is the entire process of ascertainment of cost. And then, guys, after costing, what is the next word? Cost object. Cost object, guys, is the intermediate product or the end product or service or any department or process for which the cost is to be ascertained. All right. Cost unit is the unit of measurement that we use to express the cost. It can be a simple cost unit or it can be a composite cost unit. A simple cost unit, guys, is only a single unit of measurement. A composite cost unit is a combination of two or more cost units. We considered the examples of a transportation industry, guys. I said in transportation business, the composite cost unit is usually per passenger per kilometer, or it can be per ton per kilometer. All right, guys. After that, beta, what is the next thing? Branches of accounting, guys. We did cost accounting, financial accounting, guys, and management accounting. Cost accounting is the entire process of you recording, classifying, summarizing, guys, all the data transactions related to your cost records with an objective of ascertaining cost in the end and providing information to the management for the purpose of decision making. It will be helpful for decision making. Financial accounting, same thing, guys, but just related to your financial transactions, with the end goal is to preparation of financial statements for analyzing, guys, or understanding the financial performance and position as on a specific date. Management accounting is the use of cost accounting records, financial accounting records, or any other records, guys. It can be budgets as such, beta, for the purpose of decision making. After this, guys, we moved on to objectives of cost accounting. The first basic objective of cost accounting is ascertainment of cost. The next one, beta, is determination of selling price, guys, and profitability. After determination of selling, we did cost control and cost reduction. Cost control, guys, is wherein we are trying to stick to the targets. Cost reduction, guys, is wherein we are questioning the targets. We're trying to reduce the target itself. All right, guys. Cost control can have a negative impact on the quality of the product. Cost reduction will have no impact on the quality of the product. The last one, beta, was assisting the management in decision making. All right, guys. Any doubt in this part? After objectives of cost accounting, we moved on to responsibility centers. I said for the purpose of smooth functioning of an organization, guys, the organization is segregated into different divisions or departments. Each department will be responsible for a certain task, so based on the responsibilities that are assigned, we will have cost center, profit center, revenue center, guys, and an investment center. A cost center, guys, is one that is responsible only for the costs that are incurred in the organization. So to evaluate the performance of a cost center, you're supposed to compare actual cost incurred, guys, with the standard cost incurred. Cost centers are further segregated into discretionary cost center and a standard cost center. A discretionary cost center is one where there is no relation between, you do not have a standard relation between inputs and outputs. For a standard cost center, guys, there's a clear-cut relation between the inputs and the outputs. Are we clear about this? After that, guys, a revenue center is responsible for generation of revenues. You obviously will evaluate the performance by comparing the budgeted sales with actual sales, guys. I spoke about ticketing counter as such, beta, and then I spoke about sales department. A profit center is responsible for both revenues as well as costs. That is why the performance will be evaluated by comparing the actual profit with the targeted or the budgeted profit. And then finally, guys, investment center, where profits depend on capital investment. So instead of comparing absolute amount of profit, we will compare return on investment, relative terms, guys. Profits will be compared in relative terms. Return on investment is a relative term. Are we all clear about this? Any doubt in this part, guys? Next, better write down side heading, classification of expenses. Classification of expenses. Without yawning, of course, better. Whatever we are learning, guys, is as per cost accounting standards. Like how we have accounting standards, there are cost accounting standards as well. Though officially cost accounting standards are not a part of your syllabus. You do not have to remember any cost accounting standard numbers. You do not have to code cost accounting standards. But whatever classification of expenses that we are learning as Beta is all based on that itself. The very first classification, we have different classifications, meaning the same expenditure as Beta can come under different categories. All right. The first classification of expenditure is something that you might have done at foundation level or some 11th or 12th or 7th standard also. It is based on the nature of expenditure or behavior of expenditure in relation to output. If the expenditure is something that changes with a change in output, it will be termed as variable expenditure. If the expenditure, guys, is supposed to remain constant irrespective of the output that you manufactured, then it will be a fixed expenditure. If the expenditure has both variable as well as fixed component, a part of the expenditure remains constant, a part of the expenditure, guys, changes proportionately with the change in output, then it becomes semi-variable expenditure. So we have variable expenditure, we have fixed expenditure, we have semi-variable expenditure. I'll tell you when to copy, guys. Variable expenditure, I told you, changes proportionately with the change in output. Fixed expenditure remains constant, it does not change. Semi-variable will have both variable as well as fixed component. A part of the expenditure will change, a part of the expenditure will remain constant. There's another classification of expenses called as step fixed cost. It comes under the category of fixed cost only. It is still a fixed element of cost, but then if you go beyond a certain level of activity, even fixed cost will increase. Let's say that you own a machine that can support a manufacturing of 1 lakh units. So whether you manufacture 10 lakh units, whether you manufacture 100 units, whether you manufacture 1000 units, you still have to incur expenditure in respect of that machine. There will still be depreciation of the equipment. So anywhere, guys, up to 1 lakh units, your expenditure is not going to change. But if you go beyond 1 lakh units, you will be needing another machine. The existing machine cannot accommodate more than 1 lakh units. So if you're manufacturing more than 1 lakh units, you need 2 equipments. If you need 2 equipments as Beta, your fixed cost is going to proportionately increase. It is not going to change from 1 lakh 1 unit to 1 lakh 2 units, 1 lakh 3 units, 1 lakh 4 units. अभी कब change होगा वापस? 2 lakhs. Anywhere between 1 lakh to 2 lakh units, your cost is going to remain same, constant. It is only beyond 2 lakh units, guys, that you're again going to incur additional fixed cost. उसको बोलते हैं step fixed cost. A majority of the fixed expenses in real life, guys, are actually step fixed in nature only. Just because it is fixed, that does not mean as Beta it will remain fixed for life. Are we clear about this? Even if you're paying factory rent as such, guys, there will be constraints. The factory will not be able to accommodate more than a certain level of output. If you would want to increase the production, the only alternative as Beta is to set up an additional factory, expand the factory. Is your fixed cost increasing there? Definitely yes. So majority of the expenses in real life will not be purely fixed, they will be step fixed in nature. So talking about the first expenditure again, I told you variable expenditure is something that is going to remain constant irrespective of the level, that is cost per unit is going to remain constant irrespective of the level of output. Cost per unit. Total cost will proportionately change with a change in output. Let's say, guys, that the total materials that are required to manufacture a specific product is 50 rupees per unit. You manufacture 10 units. Your cost per unit will be how much? 50 rupees only. The total cost that you're going to incur will be 500. You manufacture 100 units. The cost per unit will be still 50 rupees. The total cost will become, you manufacture 1000 units, but your cost per unit will still be 50. This will become 50,000. We do not apply the concepts that we learn in economics unless it is given in the question. In real life, undoubtedly, as you keep increasing the production, your cost per unit will reduce because of economies of scale. You are buying more amount of input, guys. There will be certain amount of discounts that you're going to receive. But यहाँ पे unless otherwise given, you're going to take the same amount of cost per unit. You're not going to change cost per unit, whether you manufacture 1 unit or whether you manufacture 1 lakh units. Variable cost per unit is not supposed to change. Are we clear about this? Meaning, if I plot it on a graph with volume on x-axis and the total cost on y-axis, I am going to get a straight line as, bhai. 1 second, brother. My cost per unit will remain constant, which will be 50 rupees. My total cost obviously will keep increasing as such beta as I increase the production. You manufacture 10 units, you will incur total cost for 10 units. You manufacture 100 units, you will be incurring total cost for 100 units. You manufacture 1000 units, you will be incurring total cost for 1000. उसको 3 बार बोला यार जयंत अंदर आओ बोल के, यही टाइम वेस्ट होता है यार. So समझ में आ रहा है नहीं आ रहा है guys? Are we all clear about this? So please remember that your cost per unit is going to remain constant. As far as fixed cost is concerned, what remains constant is the total amount. Let's say guys that the factory rent of an organization is 1 lakh. You are incurring an amount of 1 lakh rupees in paying rentals of the factory. If you manufacture 10 units, my total cost will remain at 1 lakh. But if I were to apportion this total cost to the number of units that I have manufactured, it will become 10,000 on a per unit basis. Alright. If I manufacture 100 units, my total cost is still 1 lakh. On a per unit basis, guys, this will become 1000. And if I manufacture 1000 units, my total cost will still be, assuming your factory can accommodate the entire production better, your cost per unit is going to come down to 100. So what happens in a fixed cost is that your total cost will remain constant. It does not change with the change in output, but the cost per unit will keep changing. Whenever they give us total cost at two different levels of activities, they expect us to identify which is variable, which is fixed. And the only way of identifying which cost is fixed in nature, which cost is variable in nature, is to compute cost per unit or compare total cost. If the total cost at both the volume levels is same, you know that it is fixed in nature. If the cost per unit is same, it is variable in nature. If both of them are not constant, it is semi-variable. Let's say guys that there is some expenditure that you are incurring which will cost you 5 rupees per unit plus an amount of 50,000. There's an expenditure that is going to cost you 50,000 rupees fixed, plus for every 1 unit that you manufacture as Saat Beta, you're going to incur an amount of 5 rupees. Alright. It has both fixed component as well as variable component. You undertake to manufacture 100 units. What will be your total cost? If you manufacture 100 units as Saat Beta, the total cost that we are going to incur is 50,500. How will you get cost per unit, guys, when you're incurring an amount of 50,500? 50. You divide that 50,500 by 100 units. The cost per unit is 505. Yellow it. If the output is 1000 units, what will be your total cost? The fixed component does not change. Variable component is 5 rupees per unit. We will incur that for 1000 units. The total amount that you will be incurring would be 55,000. This 55,000, if you divide by 1000 units, what's the cost per unit? 55,000 only, no? 55,000 guys divided by 1000 units, the cost per unit is going to be 55 rupees. So your total cost is not constant, your cost per unit is also not constant. Are we understanding this? This is if the expenditure beta is semi-variable. Any doubt in this part? Unless otherwise given, there is no step fixed cost. मतलब question में अगर कोई mention कर रहा है that this is step fixed, only then we are going to consider it. Otherwise, there is no step fixed. If I give you total cost at two different volume levels, जैसे let's say beta there is expenditure 1, expenditure 2 and expenditure 3. I tell you that the total cost at 1000 units of expenditure 1 is 10,000 rupees. The total cost at 1500 units is 15,000. If you divide 10,000 units by 1000 units, what is the cost per unit? 10 rupees. 15,000 divided by 1500 units. Is the cost per unit constant? That means it becomes variable in nature. Are we clear? Let's say there's another expenditure beta whose total cost was 20,000 at 1000 units, 20,000 at 1500 units. You do not even have to compute cost per unit. You know that the total cost is constant. If the total cost is constant, this expenditure would be fixed in nature. Yes or no? Let's say beta there's another expenditure where at 1000 units beta you have incurred a cost of, let's say, 12,000 rupees. At 1500 units beta you have incurred a cost of 13,000 rupees. The total cost is not constant. It is 12,000 and 13,000, and if you compute cost per unit, guys, 12,000 divided by 1000 units, it is 12 rupees. 13,000 divided by 1500 units would be 8.67. All right. So at one place you're incurring 12 rupees, at the other place 8.67. Your total cost is not constant. Your cost per unit is also not constant. So this will become, this is how you identify which of the expenses are variable, which of the expenses are fixed and semi-variable. So on mein aa raha hai, nahi aa raha hai? Now, can you give me some examples, guys, of expenses that can be semi-variable? And don't tell me electricity. या टेलीफोन, सॉरी. व्हाट आर द टू एग्जांपल्स दैट यू नो? यही पढ़ते हैं फाउंडेशन में. ऑलराइट गाइस, ये तंग आ गया यार, बैच के बाद बैच सेम आंसर्स बोलते हैं. सो इसीलिए कैन यू गिव एन एग्जांपल गाइस ऑफ एन एक्सपेंडिचर व्हिच इज सेमी वेरिएबल इन नेचर? भरत, राइट? तेरा नाम भूल गया बेटा. हाँ, भरत ओनली. या बेटा, कैन यू गिव एन एग्जांपल ऑफ एन एक्सपेंडिचर व्हिच इज सेमी वेरिएबल? नो आइडिया. Flight fares are semi-variable. For whom? For the company it is semi-variable. I thought it was dynamic pricing. What is semi-variable in respect of flight fares? Matlab, how do they compute? आजा. अरे आ यार. Guys, economy, business, first class, the different categories of products priced at different amounts. It is not that you pay a fixed amount and for every additional seat you'll be like, ठीक है 100 रुपए देते जाता हूँ मैं, ले दे मेरे को एक सीट बोल के. लेबर हो सकता है, ऑटो. The initial amount is fixed irrespective of the amount of usage as such, guys, and then subsequently it keeps varying as such beta for every 0.1 kilometers is what the meter runs. All right, good. Any other देखो समझ में है ना वो? It is not semi variable beta, it is still variable only for us. Of course they follow dynamic pricing, that is when the first 10-20% of the seats are sold, the prices are less, but as the seats keep filling up as such beta, the price keeps increasing. This is what Indian Railways has also implemented. Yeah, someone was talking about labor charge. How will labor be semi variable? 10,000 plus overtime. Overtime will not make it as such but a semi variable. I thought you would tell me that there is a fixed component that is being given to every employee, plus they are given on the basis of the number of units that they are manufacturing. If you tell them that we will pay you a salary of 5,000 rupees plus 2 rupees for every unit that is manufactured, it will undoubtedly become semi variable. All right guys, the intent was to ensure that you guys understand semi variable, guys. Rentals आजकल होते हैं, a lot of rentals that you pay as such, guys, becomes semi variable. जैसे at malls or at airports as such beta, there is a fixed component plus there is rent as a percentage of the amount of revenue. So that makes it semi variable. Irrespective of what are the sales in a month, you will still have to pay a fixed amount of rental, plus you will have to pay a percentage of your revenue, which is now variable in nature. So here you have both fixed component as well as variable component. Smaller manufacturing companies better find it very difficult to directly employ labor, so that is why they outsource it, guys, to a contractor. Contractor को minimum guarantee देंगे. They will tell them that bare minimum per month we will give you 2 lakh rupees, for example. Beyond that, as such better, they'll say that you'll have to manufacture 50,000 units. In case the production crosses 50,000 units, we will give you additional, let's say 3 rupees per unit or 4 rupees per unit. Who's coming to work in the organization, we do not care. It is the problem of the contractor. He will have to ensure that he arranges the labor as such better and gets the work done. For us, the payments that we are making to that contractor will become semi-variable. It is remaining fixed up to a certain level. Beyond that beta, it is variable in nature. Are we all clear about this? Yes or no, guys? Variable expenses, a classic example beta will always be the raw material component that we end up using in the cell phone. Companies like Apple beta, the other day that we were discussing examples, even the cell phones that they manufacture as such beta is outsourced manufacturing process. The cost that they pay on a per unit basis will also remain constant. समझ में आ रहा है क्या बोल रहा हूँ? Or guys, when you talk about these FMCG products, the biscuits that you eat, the chips that you have as such beta, all of these are usually outsourced. Job work पे दे देते हैं. The rate is already fixed. How much is the amount of rate that they're going to pay to these people? The rate is revised almost once in a year or something better based on the cost elements. So the rate is fixed on a per unit basis. So that will again make it variable in nature. Are we all clear about this? Yes or no, guys? So remember, whenever we have to classify what is variable, what is fixed, if it is variable expenditure, what remains constant? Cost per unit. Obviously the total cost will change with a change in the level of output. If it is fixed cost, the total cost remains constant. Your cost per unit will change. Semi-variable, nothing remains constant. Both of them, guys, will change. Do we have any doubt in this, guys? Next beta. If there is semi-variable expenditure, guys, how do we segregate that semi-variable expenditure? जैसे मेरे example में at 1000 units, we were incurring a cost of 12,000 rupees. At 1500 units, we were incurring a cost of 13,000. The cost that we were incurring beta at 1000 units was units likha beta mein, it is 12,000 rupees. The cost that we are incurring at 1500 units beta, it is 13,000. If you were to segregate the total component into how much is fixed, how much is variable, how do we do that? You had these questions in foundation also in an indirect way, but not asking you to segregate, but questions are still the same. Objective is to segregate the total cost into variable component and fixed component. Yes, beta Shrishti. Perfect beta. Whatever is the fixed cost component, guys, it remains same in both the elements. Alright, if it is X rupees for the first alternative, it is also X rupees for the second alternative. That cannot change. This 12,000 rupees includes fixed cost plus variable cost for how many units? 1000 units. This 13,000 includes fixed cost plus variable cost for 1500 units. The first one is fixed cost plus variable cost for 1000 units. The second one is fixed cost plus variable cost for 1500 units. When you shift from this 1000 units to 1500 units, your total cost is changing by 1000 rupees. 12,000 rupees is becoming 13,000 rupees. We know for a fact that this 1000 rupees represents the variable cost of 500 units. Because यहाँ पे बेटा fixed cost plus variable cost for 1000 units है. In this, what is included? Fixed cost plus variable cost for 1500 units. The additional thing that is included in the second cost component is variable cost for 500 units. That means this 1000 rupees that we are talking about will become the variable cost for 500 units. What do you think will be the variable cost on a per unit basis? 2 rupees. 1000 divided by 500 units. 1000 rupees divided by 500 units, guys, will be the variable. Once you get this variable cost for 2 rupees, better, you can compute the amount of fixed cost. Pick up any volume level, doesn't make a difference. The answer is going to remain constant. We know that this includes variable cost of how many units? 1000 units. 1000 multiplied by 2 rupees per unit. Your total variable cost is 2000. You remove that 2000 guys from an amount of 12,000. कितना हो जाएगा fixed cost? 10,000. Or this includes variable cost for how many units? 1500. 1500 multiplied by 2 rupees. 3000 rupees is the variable cost. You remove that 3000 from 13,000. The balance will become your fixed cost. Are we clear? So it just change in cost by change in activity bolte. You either remember the formula or just remember the concept. It is simple. Incremental cost will only be incremental variable cost. Fixed cost cannot increase from one production level to another production level. So if I tell you total cost at 1000 units and 1800 units better, you know that the change in total cost will only be on account of those variable cost of 800 units. So you take that change in total cost and divide it by 800 units, you will get variable cost better on a per unit basis. Are we all clear about this? Yes or no? So you will have to identify whether an expenditure is variable, fixed or semi-variable. Once you identify that it is semi-variable, you will also have to segregate that semi-variable expenditure into fixed and variable component. This is how we do it. There are different methods for dividing the total cost into variable and fixed, but all the methods are based on the same concept. I'll give you names of all of those methods in the explanation, but doesn't matter guys which method. Just say one method bolta simultaneous equation, and in simultaneous equation they will tell us that total cost is equal to fixed cost plus variable cost per unit into number of units. है तो वही बेटा. जैसे they'll tell us what was the total cost. 12,000 is equal to fixed cost plus variable cost per unit into 1000 units. And then beta 13,000 is equal to fixed cost plus variable cost per unit into 1500 units. When you take difference in these two guys, you automatically again get variable cost for 500 units. If I take difference, won't I get that beta? 1000 is the variable cost of 500 units. You get variable cost per unit as 1000 divided by 500, which is 2 rupees per unit. Any doubt in this part? Are we all clear about this? Write down better. First citing classification of expenses uske niche based on behavior of expenditure in relation to output. Based on behavior of expenditure based on behavior of expenditure in relation to output. Based on behavior of expenditure in relation to output. Right on guys. The expenditure incurred can be segregated into expenditure incurred can be segregated into variable, fixed and semi-variable. Can be segregated into variable, fixed and semi-variable. Variable, fixed and semi-variable. Depending on the change in cost. Variable, fixed and semi-variable. क्या हुआ शिवन? Variable, fixed and semi-variable. Depending on change in cost. Depending on change in cost with the change in output. Depending on change in cost with the change in output. Next slide. Variable cost changes proportionately. Variable cost changes proportionately. Variable cost changes proportionately. Changes proportionately with a change in output. Variable cost changes proportionately with a change in output. Changes proportionately with a change in output. The cost per unit. The cost per unit will remain same unless otherwise given. The cost per unit will remain same unless otherwise given. Unless otherwise given. The cost per unit beta will remain same unless otherwise given. Example. Example. Raw material cost. Raw material cost. Raw material cost. Wages if paid on number of units basis. Wages if paid on number of units basis. Wages if paid on number of units basis. Number of units. Next line. Fixed expenditure will remain constant. Fixed expenditure will remain constant. Fixed expenditure will remain constant irrespective of the level of output. Fixed expenditure will remain constant irrespective of the level of output. Irrespective of the level of output. The cost apportioned on a per unit basis. The cost apportioned on a per unit basis. The cost apportioned on a per unit basis. On a per unit basis will change with the change in output. The cost apportioned on a per unit basis will change with the change in output. Will change with the change in output. Example. Depreciation if based on time. Depreciation if based on time. Depreciation if based on time. Factory rent. Factory rent. Depreciation if based on time and factory rent. Next better. Semi-variable expenditure. Next line. Semi-variable expenditure. Semi-variable expenditure has both variable and fixed components. Has both variable and fixed components. Has both variable and fixed components. And hence both total cost and cost per unit and hence both total cost and cost per unit will change with the change in output. Total cost and cost per unit will change with the change in output. Total cost and cost per unit will change with the change in output. With the change in output. Example. Example. Store rent. Store rent. Store rent. If a part of it is based on revenue. Store rent if a part of it is based on revenue. Store rent if a part of it is based on revenue. Revenue. Next line. Step fixed cost. Step fixed cost. Next line. Step fixed cost will remain constant. Will remain constant. Will remain constant up to a specific level of activity. Will remain constant up to a specific level of activity. up to a specific level of activity, beyond which it increases, but will remain constant for the next level of activity, beyond which it increases but will remain constant for the next level of activity, for the next level of activity. Example, if the capacity of a machine is 1 lakh units, if the capacity of a machine is 1 lakh units, if the capacity of a machine is 1 lakh units, and the depreciation expenditure is 5 lakhs, the depreciation expenditure is 5 lakhs. Now, if the output, guys, is 1 to 1 lakh units, अगर तुम्हारा output 1 to 1 lakh units है, how many machines are you going to need? The number of machines that we will be needing as beta is 1. What will be your depreciation expenditure? How much? 5 lakhs. But if you go beyond 1 lakh units as beta and the output is 1 lakh 1 to 2 lakh units, how many machines are we going to need? 2, and the expenditure beta will increase to 10 lakhs, so on. So this will make it step fixed in nature. Output 1 to 1 lakh units, number of machines 1, expenditure 5 lakhs, output 1 lakh 1 to 2 lakh units, you will be needing 2 machines and the expenditure is 10 lakhs. Are we clear about this? Niche note beta, unless otherwise given, write down a note, unless otherwise given, there will be no step fixed cost. Unless otherwise given, there will be no step fixed cost. There will be no step fixed cost. Unless otherwise given, there will be no step fixed cost. Okay. So the summary here beta is that cost per unit and total cost. If it is variable beta, it is what will remain constant. लिखो ये वापस पूरा. It will remain constant. This will change. Fixed cost, total cost remains constant. Cost per unit will change. Semi-variable, both of them will change. Any chapter, make it a habit. Fixed cost should always be written on a totality basis. Variable cost should always be written on a per unit basis. Only then you will ensure that when the volume changes, you are writing the correct amount of total cost. When students make mistake, guys, they do not change total variable cost. They do not, they keep fixed cost per unit constant. Question mein purposely they will tell you that fixed cost is costing 100 rupees per unit. And they will talk about some production level. If you change the production level, guys, that 100 rupees per unit is not going to remain constant. Let's say that the existing production is 10,000 units. 10,000 units into 100 rupees is your total fixed cost. Now, even if you operate at 15,000 units, your total fixed cost is still going to remain same. It is only cost per unit that will change. That is why, as a matter of rule, variable cost should always be written on a per unit basis. Fixed cost should always be written on a totality basis. Doesn't matter how are they giving information in the question, it is our job to write like this. Only then the total cost will remain correct. Are we clear about this? Yes or no, guys? Now write down beta. Side heading, segregation. Segregation of semi-variable expenditure. Segregation of semi-variable expenditure into variable and fixed. segregation of semi-variable expenditure into variable and fixed. Into variable and fixed. Write that example beta that we spoke about earlier. Expenditure 1, expenditure 2, expenditure 3 at 1000 units. और क्या लिया था मैं? 1500 units. The total cost is 10,000. Your cost per unit will be 10 rupees. Total cost is 15,000. Cost per unit is 10 rupees. Fixed cost कितना लिखा था? जान दो, जो भी लिखना लिखो. 20,000 guys and 20,000. How much will be the cost per unit if it is 20,000? 20 rupees, and this will be 13.33. Cost per unit कैसे आ रहा है, समझ में आया ना? You have to divide total cost by the number of units, quantity guys. You will get cost per unit. Expenditure 3 guys, 12,000. Cost per unit was 12 rupees. और ये कितना लिया था अपन? 13,000. Cost per unit बेटा 1315 8.667. For expenditure 3 guys, it is 12 rupees and 8.67. So the third expenditure guys, neither the cost per unit nor the total cost as such guys is constant. That is why third expenditure will be semi-variable. Expenditure 1 क्या हो जाएगा बेटा? Expenditure 1 is variable. Why is it variable? Cost per unit is constant. What will second expenditure be? Fixed cost. It is because the total cost is constant. Expenditure 3 guys will be semi-variable because both cost per unit and total cost are not constant. Are we clear? Right, like this. Expenditure 1 variable, expenditure 2 fixed, expenditure 3 semi-variable. Cost per unit and total cost both are not constant. हो गया यहां तक? Now segregation के लिए guys, are we all done till this point? So I told you beta that this 12,000 rupees represents what? It is fixed cost plus, आंसर नहीं मालूम है मेरे को, हाँ 10,000 कहते, variable cost beta for 1000 units, and this 13,000 rupees guys represents fixed cost plus variable cost for 1500 units. We have fixed cost plus variable cost for 1000, fixed cost plus variable cost for 1500 units. Our incremental expenditure beta is 1000 rupees, which will now become the variable cost of 500 units. Therefore, variable cost per unit would be 1000 divided by 500 units. Smart guys, so proud of you. So variable cost per unit guys is 2 rupees. Are we all clear about this? इसको बोलते हैं बेटा change in level of activity method. They've specified different methods for segregation. The name of this method is change in level of activity. Are we supposed to remember the names? In case it comes as a theory question, then you will have to write. If it comes as a practical part as such beta, who cares about the name of the method? We just have to write this. Change in expenditure and change in this. तो ये change in level of activity पूरे के पूरे यही है बेटा. It says variable cost per unit would be change in total cost divided by change in activity. Change in total cost beta is 13,000 minus 12,000. Change in activity beta is 1500 units minus 1000 units. Are we not taking incremental expenditure by incremental output? This is nothing but increase in expenditure, guys, by increase in output. This will be 2 rupees per unit. Once we get this variable cost per unit, I told you how to determine the amount of fixed cost. How will you do that, guys? Fixed cost kaise determine karoge beta? You can pick up any activity level. What is the total cost, guys, at 1000 units? 12,000. We all know that this includes fixed cost as well as variable cost. But this includes variable cost of how many units? So the variable cost of 1000 units would be 2000 rupees and the balance 10,000 will become your fixed cost. Are we understanding this? Or guys, if not that, you pick up the next volume level, which is total cost at 1500 units, which will be 13,000. That includes variable cost of how many units? 1500 units. You will write 1500 units into 2, 3000, and the difference beta would be 10,000. Are we clear? Doesn't matter which activity level that you pick up beta, the answer is supposed to be same. Then there is something called as high-low method. High-low method, guys, is basically where total cost is given at multiple levels of activities. They give us total cost at 1000 units, 1500 units, 2000 units, 2500, 3000 units. This method says instead of taking any two random activity levels, we should pick up the highest activity level and the lowest activity level. Use the same formula. You will still write change in total cost by change in activity. But those activities should be based on the highest activity level and the lowest activity level. It does not make any difference for us better because all our examples will have a linear relation. When I say linear relation, cost per unit, variable cost per unit is always constant. Whether you randomly pick up any two activity levels or whether you pick up the highest or the lowest activity level, the answer is not going to change. Are we clear about that, Ekansh? बैठना है class में घर जाना है. Remember, I gave a warning yesterday that it's only for 2 days that I'm going to handle all of this. उसके बाद में I'll take my own action. Want to sit or you want to leave now? Are we all clear about high-low method, guys? So what do we do? Or when is this method used? When total cost is given at multiple activity levels. To compute variable cost per unit, we will pick up the highest activity level and the lowest activity level. That's it. That's the only thing that you should know. Formula क्या रहेगा? वापस वही, guys. It will still be change in total cost divided by change in activity. Then there is something called as simultaneous equation method. वापस same beta. When you say simultaneous equations, guard the loop. Y is equal to mx plus c, guys, is the कभी सुने ना equation के बारे में. Thank you, beta. So Y here stands for total cost. X C stands for your. You do not like Y is equal to mx plus c, beta. जैसा लिखना है लिखो यार, क्या तो फर्क पड़ता है. So at 1500 units, guys, what is your total cost? 13,000. That is equal to m multiplied by how many units? 1500 plus the amount of fixed cost. At 1000 units, 12,000 is equal to variable cost per unit into 1000 plus c. You take a difference, guys, you're still going to get 1000 is equal to m into 500. Your m beta would be 2 rupees per unit. It is exactly the same thing, guys. There's no difference. It is just how are you presenting the information. Are we clear about this? And then there is another method, graphical method. पहले graphical method के लिए बेटा समझो पूरे graphs. There is volume on x. Are you all following, guys? There's volume, guys, on x-axis. There is cost on y. Your total variable cost is going to be a line like this. Total variable cost. At 0 units, you will incur 0 rupees. As you keep increasing the production, your total variable cost will keep increasing with or without yawning. Yes or no, guys? Total variable cost will keep increasing whenever there's a change in output is increasing. Your total fixed cost will be a straight line like this. Your total fixed cost as such beta is not supposed to change. Are we clear? Semi-variable cost will be something like this. It will not start from the origin. The reason, because there is also fixed cost component. Because there is fixed cost component, that means even if you manufacture 0 units, you will be incurring some amount of fixed cost. That is why it is semi-variable. Are we understanding this, guys? Think of semi-variable like total cost, but variable as well as fixed put together. If there is both variable and fixed, isn't the total cost becoming semi-variable now? So that semi-variable expenditure, guys, is going to be a straight line like this. Graphical method बोलता है. अब अपने example में बेटा. Let's take a scale of, say, for example, 2,000 rupees. You have 2,000, 4,000, 6. 12,000, guys, and 14,000. Let's take a volume of 500, 1,000 and 1,500, guys. What is the total cost beta that we are incurring at 1,000 units? 12,000 rupees. At 1,500 units beta, we are incurring a total cost of 13,000, somewhere here. Now if you join these 2 points as such, guys, and extend, the point where it cuts the y-axis will be the point of your fixed cost. I know the answer is 10,000, guys, so yeah, it should touch there only. Are we clear about this? अब वो graph is not to scale, guys. क्या करूँ? समझ में आ रहा है नहीं आ रहा है? You join those 2 points as such, guys, extend the line. Wherever the line cuts the y-axis, that will be the total cost at 0 units. Total cost at 0 units matlab the amount of fixed cost. You're not incurring any variable cost, you're incurring only fixed cost. Are we clear about this? That is graphical method. That is how you identify how much is fixed cost. Once you get fixed cost, you know the balance portion will be variable cost. And using that, you're going to compute your variable cost per unit. Are we clear about this? Right on, guys. काम पे लिखना था कहाँ से? ये पूरा हो गया यहाँ तक. Both are not constant तक लिख लिए. Write this, guys. 12,000 is equal to fixed cost plus variable cost for 1,000. 13,000 is equal to fixed cost plus variable cost for 1,500 units. लिखे बेटा वो incremental expenditure is 1,000 rupees, which will become the variable cost for 500 units. Therefore, variable cost per unit is 1,000 divided by 500, which is 2 rupees per unit. Change in level of activity method बेटा. You will write variable cost per unit as change. ऊपर का नहीं हुआ है. You have total cost at 1000 units, total cost at 1500 units, beta. Write the amount of fixed cost. High-low method, I'll explain. I'll give notes. Are we all done till this point? Total cost at 1500 units minus variable cost for 1500 units 3000. The balance fixed cost portion beta is 10,000 rupees. हो गया सबका ये? Right, on second method beta, high-low method. What will you write under high-low method? If the total cost is given for multiple activity levels, next side heading guys, high-low method, उसके नीचे लिखना, if the total cost is given for multiple activity levels, if the total cost is given for multiple activity levels, we should consider the highest and the lowest activity levels. We should consider the highest and the low. If the total cost is given for multiple activity levels, पुरानी जगह पे आ गया हूँ. We should consider the highest and the lowest activity level. We should consider the highest and the lowest activity level for computation of variable and fixed cost. For computation of variable and fixed cost. उतना ही बेटा. For computation of variable and fixed cost. उसके बाद में ये कॉपी करो. Copy till m equals 2 rupees per unit. Simultaneous equations. You do not want to write y is equal to mx plus c. You write y is equal to a plus bx. जो लिखना है लिखो बेटा. Simultaneous equations. हो गया यहाँ तक. Now graphical method बोल के साइड हेडिंग लिखना. If you're done with that बेटा, write graphical method. Make small graphs guys. First, in each of the graphs you will have volume beta on x-axis, cost on y-axis. This will be total variable cost. Why is it an upward sloping straight line? Total cost will increase with a an increase in volume. With an increase in volume. Total cost will increase with an increase in volume guys. Fixed cost beta is total cost will remain constant. Total cost will remain constant. Variable cost में बेटा you will write that the total cost will increase with an increase in output. Under fixed cost you will write that the total cost will remain constant. लिखे बेटा सब लोग यहाँ तक. Semi-variable will also be an upward sloping line, guys. It's just that it will not start from origin. This is semi-variable cost. Even at 0 units, there will be some cost incurred. Even at 0 units, there will be the fixed component. There will be fixed component. Semi-variable even at 0 units there will be fixed component. समझ में आया बेटा ये? Next one बेटा, step fixed. कौन सा लिख रहा है रीत? One second guys, they're copying. Kid, faster. Copy the next graph also guys, semi-variable. तो जल्दी कॉपी करो बे, तू ही लिख रहा बेवकूफ, लिखना जल्दी, हंसते जा रहा है तो. क्या गधा है रे, अभी वेरिएबल कॉस्ट में था. Here guys, volume and cost, if it is step fixed cost, the graph will be something like this. The total cost guys remains constant up to a specific level of activity, after which it will increase, but it will remain constant for the next level of activity, beyond which as the cost will again increase and will remain constant for the next level of activity. समझ में आ रहा है? This will be step fixed cost. In the example that we discussed, total cost will remain constant for every 1 lakh units. The minute you go beyond 1 lakh units, again the total cost will increase and will remain constant for the next activity level. Is that clear guys? Now what will you do under graphical method beta? The total cost will be plotted on a graph. The straight line should be extended. Wherever the straight line cuts the y-axis beta will be the point of fixed cost, because that will be the total cost at 0 units level. Are we clear about this? Likho beta, next line. Under graphical method, under graphical method, the total cost at the two activity levels, total cost at the two activity levels should be plotted on a graph, The point at which the straight line cuts the y-axis, the point at which the straight line cuts the y-axis will be the point of fixed cost. अब ग्राफ बनाओ बेटा, ग्राफ में वापस. 2,000, 4,000, 6,000, 8, 10, 12,000 and 14,000 rupees. Number of units, beta, we are taking 500, 1,000 and 1,500. At 1,000 units, we got the total cost as 12,000 rupees. At 1,500 units, we got the total cost as 13,000. You should join these 2 points and extend the straight line, guys. This was this point and this point. हो गया है, अभिषेक? Fixed cost component, guys, is going to be 10,000 rupees. Are we all clear about this? Yeah, but this is the amount of fixed cost. Whatever is the total cost that you're incurring at, the point at which it cuts the y-axis will be the amount of fixed cost. Only that 10,000 wala part. Are we all done? So we're done with the first classification of expenditure, guys, on the basis of which we divide the total expenditure into variable, fixed, semi-variable expenditure. I told you not to remember step fixed cost unless they give step fixed cost in the question. All right. The next classification of expenditure that we have, beta, is in relation to decision making. Based on decision making or the relevance of cost, we divide the expenses into 2 categories called as relevant and irrelevant. Remember, we are not talking about how are you going to account in your books of accounts. Accounting is always and always based on historical cost. We are not talking about accounting. We're all talking about the relevance of an expenditure with respect to the decision that you will have to take. If the expenditure is to be considered, you say that it is relevant for decision making. If the expenditure is not to be considered, it will become irrelevant for decision making. We will be learning about relevant and irrelevant again when we do another chapter called as marginal costing. Usme there is a detailed list of expenses given. So the theory question came in the last attempt also. They gave a list of 5 expenses. They asked us to identify which is relevant, which is not relevant. So how do we decide whether a particular expenditure is relevant or not? There's a simple rule. If there is a change in the expenditure because of the decision that you are taking, then it is relevant for that decision. If there is no change in expenditure, irrespective of the decision that you take, it is irrelevant. Because of the decision, if the expenditure is going to change, then it will be relevant. If the expenditure is not going to change, it will become irrelevant. Anything that is already incurred in the past is sunk cost and not relevant for decision making. Anything that you've already incurred in the past as such, beta, is always and always sunk cost. It will never be relevant for decision making. Anything that you are going to incur on a later date, which is a future cost, need not always be relevant. Anything incurred in the past is already irrelevant. Anything that you're going to incur on a later date need not always be relevant. It will depend on whether that cost is going to change or not, depending on the decision that you are taking. Are we clear about this, guys? If the cost is not going to change, then it will become irrelevant. If the cost is going to change, it will become relevant. Let's say a company is deciding whether they have to manufacture product A or product B. Irrespective of whether they manufacture product A or product B, they will still have to pay factory rent over the next 1 year. That factory rent is an expenditure that the organization is incurring, and if you go by the cost records of the company, they will apportion factory cost, factory rent to the product, irrespective of which product is being manufactured. जब तुम product cost sheet data बनाओगे बेटा, you will arrive at the total cost of the product. You will include factory rent also. Just because factory rent is something that you're going to incur on a later date and you're going to apportion it to the product, that does not mean it will become, because it doesn't matter whether you're manufacturing product A or product B. क्या हो रहा है बेटा यहाँ पे? The factory rent is going to remain constant. If the expenditure is going to remain constant irrespective of the decision that you take, then it will become irrelevant. What if there is another option? Shut down the factory and do not incur factory rent. Then it becomes relevant. Because now you're not comparing two options, there are three options. Should you manufacture product A, should you manufacture product B as such guys, or should you just sleep at home? Under the third alternative, you know that you can avoid factory rent. The expenditure is going to change based on the decision that you take. It will become irrelevant. Or a simple example, let's say beta, you're deciding as to where should you be joining for classes. You will have to register with ICAI for CA Intermediate. Irrespective of the place from where you're taking your classes, can you alter the amount of fees that is payable to ICAI for registration of CA Intermediate? No. Will that be relevant for decision making? The answer is no. Irrelevant. Though it is a future cost, something that you're going to incur on a later date, it will become irrelevant for decision making. समझ में आ रहा है नहीं आ रहा है? Do not forget, anything incurred in the past will always be irrelevant. Let's say that you purchased a cell phone for 30,000 rupees as such guys, you do not like it. After buying the cell phone as such beta, using it for half a day, you've realized that you do not like the cell phone. You plan to replace the cell phone. Whether you replace the cell phone or not now, can you do anything about the 30,000 already paid? There is nothing that can be done about the amount that you have already incurred. It is sunk cost, not relevant for decision making. The only thing that will now be relevant is what is the cost of new phone that you are going to buy and how much will you get by selling this phone. The only cash flows that will get impacted because of the decision that you take will be the selling price of the old phone and purchase price of the new phone. These are the cash flows that will get affected by the decision that you take and they will become relevant for decision making. समझ में आ रहा है नहीं आ रहा है बेटा? अभी understand. See, different places, different amounts will be relevant for decision making. We will discuss this in detail later. अभी के लिए you should know the definition. Something that is changing on account of the decision that you take, it will be relevant, otherwise it will become irrelevant. Nothing else. Are we clear about this? Let's say beta that you bought a notebook for 100 rupees. You have an extra notebook with you. Your friend needs that notebook. Alright. Now, how much will you charge from your friend? 100 rupees. What if I tell you that there's a shortage of books in the market and the price of notebook has increased to 120 rupees? Still, if you're still charging 100 rupees from your friend as such beta, when you need that notebook, let's say after 2 days or after 3 days, how much will you pay to buy a notebook from the market? Did you make a loss here? How much? So, now, you have purchased a notebook for 100 rupees. You know that you will be needing this book 2 days later, 3 days later. You are someone guys who plans for things. Your friend is useless, doesn't plan for anything. He knows that he has a friend who plans for everything. So he knows that you will have an extra notebook. He takes it from you. You already paid 100 rupees for it. You know that if you were to buy a new notebook after 3 days as such beta, how much will you pay? What will be relevant here? 120. The 100 that you have already paid as such beta is absolutely irrelevant for decision making. We do not care about that 100. It is sunk cost. Guys, the amount that you have incurred guys will always be irrelevant for decision making. If you were to recover the entire amount, it's like this beta. Forget notebook. Let's say that you bought a gram of gold as such guys, some 30 years back as such guys, at an amount of 800, 900 rupees. Your friend needs that 1 gram of gold as such, but you also need it. The current market value of that gold is 13,000 rupees. How much will you charge from your friend? You cannot say that the cost that you have incurred in the past as such, but 800, 900 will be relevant. I will charge only that amount. You know for a fact that if you sell this, you will be getting an amount of 13,000. Are we clear about this? Now let's say in the example as such guys. Let's say you're an idiot. Instead of buying 2 notebooks as such beta, you bought 50 notebooks. You thought लग गया तो क्या होता बोल के plan करेंगे सब कुछ. You do not need 10 of those notebooks. You're going to scrap them. Now do not say sir CA final है नहीं. Let's say you're in CA final as such beta. In spite of that, you're making an idiotic mistake like this. You buy 50 notebooks. You do not need 10 of those notebooks as such beta. You bought each of the notebook for 100 rupees. If you go scrap them, you are not going to get more than 30 rupees per notebook. तुम लोग कितना पे करे इसके लिए? 100 rupees. A new notebook is available in the market at 120 rupees. You paid 100. If you were to buy a new book today, you will have to pay how much? If you scrap this existing notebooks, how much will you get? You have a stock of how many books that you do not need? Your friend is asking this 10 notebooks. How much will you be selling it? Haan beta? Remember, as a matter of rule, the amount that you have incurred in the past is sunk cost, not relevant for decision making. Let's say beta that you tell your friend 100 rupees. He says 90. Let's say you're bargaining there as such beta. You are like, no, I want 100, otherwise get lost. Your friend goes away. Now what will you do with those 10 notebooks? Scrap them. At what amount? For you only 30 rupees is relevant. You know your next alternative is only scrapping the books. And if you scrap the books, you're going to get an amount of, even if your friend is giving you 31 rupees, you're still gaining that 1 rupee. Do not cry about the 100 that you've already incurred, guys. If your friend is giving you 100, nothing like it. You take 100, but you will still be happy with anything above 30 rupees because that's the only amount that you're going to realize if your friend is not taking those books from you. Different cases में different amounts become relevant. There is no one rule that this should always be relevant, this should not be relevant. That is why I'm discussing these examples. Are you getting the point? Please understand, guys. You ask your friend to give you 100, he says no, you says okay, get lost. What will you do with those books? Go sell in the market at 30. ये अलग बात है बेटा. If you're taking it this like this कि ठीक है, I do not mind if I incur a loss, उसको फायदा होने नहीं दूंगा बोल के. Few people have this mindset also. You suffer बेटा यहाँ पे. But based on only financial considerations, you should be happy if you're realizing anything more than 30. Are we clear about this? Yes or no? समझ में आया what is relevant and what is not relevant? If you were to define what is relevant, what is not relevant, simple. Anything that is going to be incurred on a later date and will change, will differ among different alternatives, will become relevant for decision making. Anything that we have already incurred in the past will always be irrelevant. Any doubt in this part? Right on, guys. Second classification. Based on decision making. Based on decision making. Decision making. Expenses are segregated into relevant and irrelevant. Expenses are segregated into relevant and irrelevant. An expenditure will be considered as relevant. An expenditure will be considered as relevant. An expenditure will be considered as relevant only if the following two conditions are met. Only if the following two conditions are met. Only if the following two conditions are met. Point 1. Expenditure should be in relation to a future period. Expenditure should be in relation to a future period. Expenditure should be in relation to a future period. Point 2. It should differ under different alternatives. It should differ under different alternatives. It should differ among different alternatives. Next line. Expenditure already incurred in the past. Next line. Expenditure already incurred in the past expenditure already incurred in the past will be sunk cost. Expenditure already incurred in the past will be sunk cost, and will not be relevant for decision making. Will be sunk cost and will not be relevant for decision making. Sunk cost and will not be relevant for decision making. Will not be relevant for decision making. Next line. Example. A company can manufacture only one product. A company can manufacture only one product. A company can manufacture only one product. Company can manufacture only one product. Factory rent to be incurred. Factory rent to be incurred. Factory rent to be incurred per month is 10 lakhs. Factory rent to be incurred per month is 10 lakhs. Is 10 lakhs. Next. Irrespective of the product selected, irrespective of the product selected, the total factory rent will not change. The total factory rent will not change, and hence it will not be relevant for decision making. It will not be relevant for decision making. It will not be relevant for decision making. Next beta. Next line. Company has incurred a cost of 50,000 on market survey. Company has incurred a cost of 50,000 on market survey. On market survey. On market survey to determine if a particular product should be manufactured and sold. To determine 50,000 beta. Company has क्या लिखे यार पूरा change कर. Company has incurred a cost of 50,000 on market survey to determine if a particular product should be manufactured and sold. To determine if a particular product should be manufactured and sold. Irrespective of the decision. Irrespective of the decision. Irrespective of the decision. The 50,000 already incurred. The 50,000 already incurred. 50,000 already incurred cannot be altered. 50,000 already incurred cannot be altered. Hence it will be irrelevant. It will be irrelevant. Next line. Next example. Next example beta. A company has to choose between product A and B. A company has to choose between product A and B. A company has to choose between product A and B. Product A requires a technical expert. Product A requires a technical expert. Technical expert. Product A requires a technical expert who will be paid a fees of 1 lakh? Who will be paid a fees of 1 lakh? A fees of 1 lakh. The technical fees will be relevant. The technical fees will be relevant. The technical fees will be relevant, as it will be incurred only if product A is manufactured. As it will be incurred only if product A is manufactured. It will be incurred only if product A is manufactured. Are we all clear about this? This is about the second classification of expenditure, guys, that is based on the relevance of the expenditure. The first one was based on behavior of expenditure in relation to output, that is variable, fixed and semi-variable. The second one is based on decision making. You divide the expenses, guys, into relevant and irrelevant. And then, guys, we have the elements of cost. Elements of cost के हिसाब से, guys, we divide. There's no explanation here, just pay attention. We divide the expenditure, guys, into material, employee cost or labor, and finally beta other expenses. Each of them beta will become a separate chapter. The very first chapter that we are going to do under the practical aspects will be materials. Second one will be employee cost, which also includes direct expenses, and there'll be something called as indirect expenses after that. But abhi ke liye, based on elements, you divide the expenses into material component, employee cost, and then other expenses. Anything that is in the form of materials beta that will be used in the manufacturing of the product obviously would come under material cost. If it is the compensation that you're paying as such beta for the human resources, it will come under employee cost. Anything other than this beta will come under the category of other expenses. Just say you talk about depreciation, that's another expenditure. You talk about electricity expenditure, that is an other expenditure. You talk about higher charges of an equipment, that will come under other expenses. Are we clear about this? Material का मतलब ये नहीं है बेटा that it should be physically seen in the end product. It can be material as such, guys, that is used in the manufacturing process, but that no physical existence as such, guys, in the end product. But it is still some component that is being used to manufacture the product. Are we clear about this? So based on elements, we divide the expenses into material, employee cost, and other expenses. Based on the functions or activities that we undertake, we divide the expenses into manufacturing expenses, manufacturing, guys, or production, whatever term that you would want to use. And then there will be administrative expenses, selling, and you will have selling expenditure, distribution expenditure, and then, guys, there will be research and development expenditure. This will all depend on the functions or the activities that we undertake. All right, again, no explanation, basic common sense. Do we all know the difference between the words selling and distribution? Any expenditure, yes, but Bharat, what's the difference between selling and distribution expenditure? अरे तू यार इतने जोर से yes yes बोला इसलिए पूछ रहा हूँ, बोल. What is that for? All right, guys, the ones who have said yes beta and who meant that they said yes, can you tell me what's the difference between selling and distribution expenditure? Selling can be when you're generating revenue, distribution will be when you are not generating. Any expenditure as such beta that you incur in order to make the customer aware of the product and to sell the product becomes your selling expenditure. Any expenditure that is incurred to ship the component, the product as such beta, from the factory to the end consumer will come under distribution expenditure. It can be the cost of packaging, it can be the cost of transportation, it can be the cost of warehouses that where the product is going to be stored. So all of that comes in distribution expenditure. All the other activities that are targeted at making the customer aware of the product and to sell that customer the end product will come under selling expenditure. Are we clear about that? That's the basic difference between selling and distribution cost. ये सब functions or activities will become more relevant when we do cost sheet later. अभी के लिए उतना नहीं है बेटा. The first 3 chapters, as I told you, will be more on elements of cost rather than functions or activities. Are we all clear about this? The next classification of expenditure, guys, is based on relation to the cost object. If an expenditure we divide the expenses into 2 categories that are called as direct expenses and indirect expenses. If you already know what are them, just pay attention, just revise it. You've done about all of this, guys, when you're doing final accounts of manufacturing entities, because there you will have to divide your total expenses as such, guys, into what are manufacturing expenses and other expenses. Under manufacturing also you should know what are direct and indirect expenses. So based on relation to the cost object, we divide our expenses into direct and indirect. Anything that is directly identifiable with the end product or the service that you are rendering will be direct in nature. Anything that cannot be directly identified with the end product will become indirect expenditure. You know that you're incurring this expenditure for product A. End of discussion. It is direct expenditure. It is an expenditure that is commonly being incurred for multiple products as such, guys, then it will become indirect expenditure. You will not be able to establish that direct relation between the expenditure and the end product. When you are using a machinery as such, usually there are multiple products that are manufactured. That will not be a direct cost, that will become indirect cost. Are you understanding? When you're using consumables for machineries, when you say consumables for machineries as such, guys, there will be some amount of grease as such, guys, or spare part replacements that are required for machine. Again, will that be a direct cost or indirect cost? Indirect. You will not be able to directly establish a relation between that expenditure. You are not telling me that you are incurring this expenditure only for product A, guys. For whichever product you're using the machine, guys, you're incurring that expenditure for that product. All the machine expenses will become indirect. Electricity expenditure as such, guys, direct or indirect? Indirect expenditure. The employee who's working on manufacturing the product, direct or indirect? Direct expenditure. You know that so much of wage as such, guys, is being paid only for this product. Supervisor as such, direct or indirect? Indirect. Supervisor is not involved in manufacturing activity. His job is only to oversee the functioning of the organization. Raw materials that we use in the end product, direct or indirect? Direct expenditure, obviously. You will know, guys, which raw material is being used for which product, or what is the cost of raw materials that will be allocated to the product. You have no problem in cost identification. It's a direct cost. You do not know how much cost is being incurred for which product. It is an indirect cost. Are we clear about this? It is only manufacturing expenditure that is segregated into direct and indirect. None of the other expenses, guys, are included in valuation of inventory. If it is not something that is to be included in valuation of inventory, to hell with whether it is direct or indirect, because anyways it will be dumped to profit and loss account. If it is something that is included in valuation of inventory, there's a possibility that a part of that expenditure will get carried forward to the next year. I have manufactured 10,000 units. I have incurred manufacturing expenses on those 10,000 units. I did not sell any of those 10,000 units. ठीक है बेटा, you have incurred cost on 10,000 units. Obviously, because this is not being sold, this will get carried forward to the next year in the form of whatever is the cost of those 10,000 units. It is only manufacturing expenditure, beta, that can have an impact on the profitability of the organization depending on whether the inventory is sold or not. Other expenses like administrative, selling and distribution expenses can never be included in valuation of inventory. The ones who do not know this, just remember a simple rule. I'll talk about it again when I do materials. If an expenditure is incurred to bring the inventory to the present location and condition, only then you can include it in the valuation of inventory. You do not incur selling cost to manufacture the inventory. You do not incur distribution expenditure to manufacture the inventory. अगर inventory बनाने के लिए वो खर्चा नहीं लग रहा है, it cannot be included in valuation. It has to be dumped to P&L account. This is the reason why only under manufacturing expenses we divide them into direct and indirect. You do not need that classification for selling and distribution or for administrative. In fact, guys, everything that we incur under administrative, everything that we incur under selling and distribution is indirect in nature. By default, we have a habit of writing administrative overheads. I'll talk about this. The word overhead means indirect expenditure. It's another word for indirect expenditure. Manufacturing ke liye we do not use the word manufacturing overheads directly. We say manufacturing expenses. Under manufacturing expenses, I can have direct manufacturing expenses. I can have manufacturing overheads. Are we clear about this? Under administrative, guys, you will directly use the word administrative overheads. Under selling and distribution, you will directly use the word selling and distribution overheads. It's a common terminology. Are we understanding this? Yes or no? So material ke niche beta, you will have direct cost and indirect cost. You can have direct material. You can have indirect material. Can you give me an example of direct material? Any raw material that we are using in manufacturing of the end product asad beta will become a direct material. Any material that is not in the nature of raw material, it is being used for equipments, it will become indirect material. Employee cost, can I have direct and indirect? Definitely yes. Let's not forget beta, I told you in the beginning only that these are all different classification of expenses. That means every expenditure can be classified under each of these categories. I can pick up an expenditure randomly. I can divide whether it is variable, fixed or semi-variable. Then guys, I can go and check whether it is relevant or irrelevant. Then I can go and check whether it is material, employee cost or other expenses. I can say whether it is manufacturing or administrative or research and development. Are we understanding this? Likewise beta, ye jo tumhara other expenses hai, even that can comprise of direct expenses and indirect expenses. What will be an example of direct expenses? Freight on purchases that we are buying. Wait, purchases. तुम लोग को एक वर्ड दिमाग में रहता, जब तक वो वर्ड नहीं आया ना अपन नहीं 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 तू गलत बोल रहा, मैं जो बोल रहा वही करेक्ट है बोल के. सो फ्रेट ऑन रॉ मटेरियल एज सच गाइस इज एन एग्जांपल ऑफ डायरेक्ट एक्सपेंडिचर, बट वी ऑल लर्न दैट इट इज इंक्लूडेड इन द कॉस्ट ऑफ रॉ मटेरियल. Any cost that you are incurring to bring the materials to the factory will be included in the cost of materials. They will not be recorded separately. So no doubt about it that freight is a direct cost, but it should be forming part of your raw material cost. It is not included separately. Yes guys? Higher charges of what? If you are using that particular machine only for one product as such beta, then it becomes a direct expenditure. I am hiring a machine as such guys for a specific product. I gave an example guys of you hiring a crane. Let's say that you are a construction company, you are undertaking a project in Hyderabad. You are hiring a crane for a construction project here in Hyderabad. Whatever crane hire charges that you are paying is it directly related to that project, it will be classified as direct expenditure. Are we clear guys? Then there can be royalty as such beta, that is payable on production. It does not come under the category of material, it does not come under the category of employee cost. But is it not an expenditure related to manufacturing activity? Yes or no? Will it be a direct cost or will it be an indirect cost? Direct cost. Are we understanding this? Any example of indirect expenses? Long list beta. Depreciation, factory rent, factory security as such beta, supervisor salary, electricity expense, all of that as such beta will come under indirect expenses. Are you all following? समझ में आ रहा है नहीं आ रहा है? The sum total of all the direct expenses is called as prime cost. The sum total of all the indirect expenses will be manufacturing. तब सिर्फ overheads बोल के छोड़ जाता, अभी let's use the word manufacturing overheads. The sum total of prime cost and manufacturing overheads will be your manufacturing cost. Total manufacturing cost is divided into direct expenses and indirect expenses. Under each of the head beta, direct and indirect, you will have material, employee and other expenses. Are we all clear about this? Yes or no? So that ये पूरा classification will come only under which head? Manufacturing expenses. You divide your expenses into direct and indirect. Direct is something that can be identified with the end product or the service that you are rendering as such beta. Indirect is that is commonly incurred and needs to be apportioned. Any doubt in this part? Sum total of all the direct expenses will be called as? Sum total of all the indirect expenses will be termed as manufacturing overheads. Are we clear? Any doubt in this part? Right on guys. Next, कहाँ से लिखना है? वो as it is copy करो दोनों. Elements and based on functions or activities. What is? It is no longer valid बेटा. Entry tax and all of that. गया वो. BCom में आ रहा है. All those taxes are being eliminated. अरे वो फिफ्थ वाला सिर्फ साइड हेडिंग लिखो. I'll dictate. लिख लिया बेटा वहां तक. Based on functions or activities for expenses, manufacturing or production, administrative, selling, distribution, research and development. And then guys, based on relation to cost object. Did you write the side heading? Right on. Manufacturing expenses. Manufacturing expenses. Fifth side heading लिख लिया सब लोग या नहीं? नहीं लिखा आयुष? Manufacturing expenses. Manufacturing expenses which are directly related and can be identified, which are directly related and can be identified, which are directly related and can be identified with the end product manufactured or service rendered, with the end product manufactured or service rendered, with the end product manufactured or service rendered, will be termed as direct cost. Will be termed as direct. Will be termed as direct cost. Next, all other manufacturing expenses. All other manufacturing expenses which are commonly incurred for multiple products. Which are commonly incurred for multiple products. Which are commonly incurred for multiple products. Commonly incurred for multiple products will be termed as indirect expenses. Will be termed as indirect expenses. Will be termed as indirect expenses. Next line. Administrative expenditure Next line, guys. Administrative expenditure. Administrative expenditure. Selling and distribution cost. Selling and distribution cost. Selling and distribution cost. Research and development. Research and development. Research and development will always be considered as indirect. Will always be considered as indirect. Will always be considered as indirect. Indirect. ठीक है. Next, guys. Write like this. Done, beta. Examples, beta. Direct material will be all raw materials. All the raw materials that are used in the manufacturing process will always be direct. तुम लोग ये लिख लिया बेटा पूरा ऊपर का. Indirect materials, guys. Consumables. Tools and consumables used for machineries. Employee cost में बेटा डायरेक्ट क्या रहेगा? Workers engaged in manufacturing activity. Workers engaged in manufacturing activity. Indirect क्या रहेगा? I give an example of supervisor. Expenses में बेटा direct. I said higher charges of a machine used for a specific product. It can be royalty, product specific design, direct में बेटा higher charges of a machine used for a specific product, royalty, product specific design. Indirect expenses, depreciation, factory rent, depreciation, factory rent. Employee cost हो गया बेटा direct and indirect. Here guys, expenses. You will write direct and indirect. You do not have to worry about which expenditure will come under direct and indirect as of now, guys. When we do cost sheet, it will be important because cost sheet we have to write the data in a specific format only. We have to make a list of all the direct expenses first and then we proceed with indirect expenses. So वहाँ पे we'll be doing a long list of expenditure as to what specifically will come under direct, what specifically will come under indirect. अभी के लिए उतना ज़्यादा relevant नहीं है. Just know what is the meaning of the word direct and indirect. Are we all clear about this? Wine? See, if the company is making only one category of wine as such, then yes, but usually that does not happen. There are multiple varieties that are manufactured, and because it is still a storage cost, it will come under manufacturing cost only because it is required for further processing, but it will still be an indirect expenditure. बेवड़ों को किसकी पड़ी सो है? Are you all clear about this, guys? सबका हो गया है? Next category, guys. What is the last category number? The next category, guys, 6.1 is based on the normality of cost. We divide our expenses into normal expenses and abnormal expenses. Can someone define what is normal and what is abnormal? Normal, sir, is normal. Normal is in course of business. तुम लोग को सबको बहुत खुशी हो रही क्योंकि ये फर्स्ट बेंच में बैठा ये आंसर कर रहा बोल के. यस बेटा. हाँ. Abnormal is due to negligence and which is not in the course of business. Very good. Any other definition, guys? Future uncertain expenses. You either answer or you smile. Expenses that arise due to future uncertain event. Uncertainties. Karman. What are normal and abnormal expenses? You answer this right, better you get to slap him. नहीं? Anything that is certain to arise beta is normal. Anything that is not certain to arise is abnormal. I am going to slap you. Certain है या uncertain है? Certain या uncertain? Uncertain. So even if I slap you, it will be considered as an abnormal event and we will just ignore it. No. Hold on, let me think about it. T-shirt पे लिखे सुना तेरे. Let me overthink this. क्या यार तुम्हारा जनरेशन. कोई कुछ बोली क्या देखो? हाँ. तू डायरेक्टली कुछ नहीं बोल सकता बोल के टी-शर्ट पहन के आ रहा उसको मैसेज कन्वे करने के लिए. I thought you have WhatsApp status for this. No. Yes, guys. All right. If an expenditure is avoidable, guys, will it be normal or abnormal? If an expenditure is unavoidable, will it be normal or abnormal? Unavoidable अगर है तो, and अगर avoidable है तो, abnormal. Let's say, guys, that there is an earthquake. Avoidable or unavoidable? Unavoidable. There is nothing that you can do about an earthquake. Yes or no? So according to you, whatever expenditure that we incur as such, guys, on account of an earthquake will be. अरे यार तुम आंसर चेंज कर रहे हो अभी. You just told me, guys, anything that is unavoidable is normal in nature. So anything that is avoidable, it's certainly abnormal in nature. Anything that is not avoidable can either be normal or abnormal, depending on the nature of expenditure. Now, whatever definitions that came out in the beginning were all correct. Anything that you are incurring on account of the nature of production process as such, guys, or on account of the nature of the product and is within the acceptable limits will be termed as normal. Anything that is not arising on account of the nature of production process or the product or is beyond the acceptable limits as such beta will be considered as abnormal. समझ में आ रहा है क्या बोल रहा हूँ? Within the acceptable limit, you will be terming it as normal. Beyond it, it will be considered as abnormal. Why is it important to divide the expenses into normal and abnormal? Is in case there is any normal loss, it always gets adjusted to the cost of the remaining good units. Whether it is material, whether it is employee cost, we do not care about it. It is absorbed in the cost of the remaining good units. Guys, when I'm explaining some concept as such beta with a serious face, please do not keep smiling. Are we clear? वो 5 मिनट के लिए अगर कर रहे हो ना पूरे क्लास में समझ में आता है, जान दो कुछ सोच रहा होगा बच्चा इसीलिए स्माइल कर रहा है. कंटिन्यूसली एज सच बेटा पूरे 32 के 32 दांत दिखा के अगर बैठते गए ना, it is very weird for me also to concentrate as such, guys, because instead of explaining as such, guys, वो constant thought मेरे दिमाग में ये चल रहा है कि ये पागल क्या कर रहा है बोल के. Are we clear about this? Guys, be happy in life, no doubt about it beta, but this is not how you be happy in life. I'm explaining something. You cannot think about why am I like this and keep smiling. गाना गाओ यहाँ पे आके मैं ऐसा क्यों हूँ बोल के. Oh my god. So guys, when an expenditure या फिर थोड़ा मुंह छुपा के बैठो बेटा, अंदर बैठो. When an expenditure is classified as normal, you will have to absorb the cost of normal loss in the cost of remaining good units. When I say you will have to absorb the cost of normal loss in the cost of remaining good units, guys, pay attention. Let's say, guys, that an employee has to come to work as such beta from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. The total working hours as such, guys, as per this are 9 hours. In this 9 hours as such, guys, but obvious that there will be certain normal wastage of time. It is not that if you ask them to come at 9 o'clock as such, guys, and leave at 6 o'clock, they'll start working at 9. When they say come at 9, they will understand that as entry point is 9. Let's say beta that there's a 5 minutes wastage in the morning, there's a 5 minutes wastage in the evening, and plus they're allowed to take some other breaks, and pura breaks and all of that put together beta is 1 hour. That means we know that even if an employee is present in the organization for 9 hours, the effective working hours are going to be only 8 hours. Let's say, guys, out of this 8 hours, an employee spends 4 hours on product A, he spends 3 hours on product B, guys, and 1 hour on product C. Obviously, when the employee is working in the organization as such beta, there will be something or the other that is working on. You will see that when you start your articleship as such beta, you will have to fill in a timesheet at the end of every week कि तुम लोग पूरे हफ्ते कौन से client पे काम कर रहे थे. Different firms have different policies. It's easier for them to allocate cost or identify cost, guys, and that is also serving as a purpose of your employee control tool. They'll know whether an employee is actually working or not. So this timesheet to be filled up as such, guys, by every employee. So यहाँ पे बेटा this employee has worked on product A, product B and product C. Let's say that the employment states that the worker will be paid about 125 per hour. If the worker is paid 125 per hour as such beta, what is the total amount of wage that you're going to give to the employee for that days of work? 9 into 125 as such, guys, that will be 1125. ठीक है? This 1125 rupees is being paid for a duration of 9 hours. But when it comes to cost allocation, you will have to allocate it based on only an effective working of 8 hours. You know for a fact that even if you're paying them for 9 hours, they are not going to work for more than 8 hours. So that 1125 should be effectively divided by 8 hours to know what is your effective cost per hour. समझ में आ रहा है नहीं आ रहा है guys? It's like this. We sit in front of the books as such, guys, from morning 6 to evening 6. For example, all right, 12 hours as such, guys. उसमें we all know for a matter of fact that there will be a normal wastage of 11 hours. The effective productive time as such, guys, that for which we are going to study might only be 1 hour. सबके लिए अपना अपना normal अलग होता है बेटा, ठीक है? ठीक है, 11 hours 55 minutes effective working hours. Huh? So anyways, let's say beta that यहाँ पे in this example 1125 will be the effective wages for how many hours? You will divide this 1125 by 8 hours. What is the effective wage rate that the organization is incurring? 140.625. When you allocate wages as such, guys, you will have to allocate wages based on this rate and not based on 125 per hour. The amount of wage that needs to be allocated for product A will be 4 hours multiplied by 140.625. The amount of wages that needs to be allocated for product B will be 3 hours into 140.625. It will not be 4 into 125 and 3. If you allocate only 4 into 125, 3 into 125, beta, कितना allocate करोगे तुम लोग? You will allocate 125 into 8 hours, that is only 1000 rupees. If you start allocating wages at the rate of 125 rupees per hour. But what is the actual expenditure that we are incurring? 1125. Obviously, you will not end up allocating the remaining 125. Are we clear about this? What if, guys, this employee who was supposed to work as such, guys, for 9 hours and was supposed to be paid how much amount in total? 1125. Works only for 6 hours on a specific day. For whatever be the reason as such, guys, breakup हुआ या फिर company में current नहीं है, जो भी सोचो, there's no power. That is why the employee is not working as such, beta, or the employee is just sitting and overthinking. If that is the case as such, guys, out of this 9 hours, we know how much is normal loss, beta? 1 hour. How much should have been the effective working hours? ये भाई इसमें से भी कितने hours काम किए? The remaining 2 hours as such, beta, will now be considered as abnormal time. The remaining 2 hours should be considered as abnormal loss. Are we getting it, guys? So when you compute the effective wage rate, you cannot divide 1125 by 6 hours anymore. If you divide 1125 by 6 hours, guys, you are incorporating that abnormal loss also in the cost of the product. ऐसे सोचो बेटा, very weird example, you incur a factory rent of 1 crore rupees, all the entire year as such, beta, you were overthinking. And you manufactured only 1 unit in the entire year. That 1 unit also is lying with you. You did not sell that. Can you include the entire factory rent in the cost of that 1 unit? Let's say normally anyone else as such, beta, would have manufactured each unit at 100 rupees, but we are valuing that inventory at 1 crore rupees. Why? Because we did not do anything the entire year. And all the expenses that we are incurring, we are allocating to that 1 unit only. Will that be appropriate? That is why, as a matter of rule, everywhere you will learn that abnormalities cannot be included in the cost of inventories. You will have to eliminate them. If you divide 1125 by 6 hours, what are you doing? Including those abnormal losses also in the cost of good units, which is incorrect. Because if you do not sell these inventories, you are including a higher proportion of cost in the inventories. इसीलिए you will only have to remove normal loss. The effective wage rate per hour will still be 140.625. When you allocate wages, you will allocate wages only for 6 hours. Sir, बाकी का 2 hours कहाँ जाएगा? It will be dumped to profit and loss. ये बेटा अभी you will have to understand in real world there is no dumping to P&L account. मतलब what happens is you first write 2 wages 1125. When it comes to inventory valuation, you include only 6 hours into 140.625. By doing this, we ensure that we are not including the entire wage of those 8 hours as such, beta, in the cost of inventories. But वो सीखने के लिए we learn everywhere that it should be transferred to P&L account. It should not be included in the cost of remaining good units. Are we all understanding this? Yes or no? Likewise, let us say, beta, that you buy material worth 1 lakh kgs. You pay a cost of 5 rupees per kg for the material. The total amount that you have incurred is, it is very normal owing to the nature of the material that there can be a normal transit loss of 4%. ठीक है? If there is a normal transit loss of 4% as such, guys, then the quantity that you should have received should be 96,000. Let's say that you receive a quantity of 94,000 kgs only. You were supposed to receive a quantity of 96,000 kgs, you're receiving only 94,000 kgs. Only the cost of this normal loss should be adjusted to the cost of the remaining good units. Our cost per kg is 5 rupees had there been no loss at all. But because of normal loss, instead of writing 5 rupees per kg, I will say that 5 lakhs should now be apportioned on the basis of how many kgs? 96,000 kgs. That 4,000 kgs is automatically getting adjusted in the cost of the remaining 96,000 kgs. See guys, तुम्हारी ऐसे की तैसे। सुनो बेटा 5 लाख रुपीज है, उसमें से 96,000 kgs जो है 4 रुपीज, 4 रुपीज ये 5 रुपीज 5 रुपीज इस 4,80,000। बाकी 4,000 kgs जो नॉर्मल लॉस है उसका कॉस्ट कितना है? This is adjusted to the cost of the remaining units. मतलब the cost of remaining units will be increased by 20,000. That 5 lakh rupees will now become the cost of how many kgs? 96,000 kgs. What will be the cost per kg? 5 lakhs divided by 96,000. How much will that be, beta? 5.208. This will become the cost of normal loss. Cost of raw material on a per unit basis. But sir, don't we have an abnormal loss of 2,000 kgs? Can you divide 5 lakhs by 94,000? If you do that, what is happening? That abnormal loss is also getting adjusted to the cost of the remaining good units, which is incorrect. You cannot do that. You cannot include abnormalities in the cost of inventories. What if, sir, instead of receiving 1 lakh kgs of raw material, we receive 97,000 kgs of raw material? Transit loss is still 4%. Normally, there should have been a transit loss of how much? 4%. We are now receiving how many kgs? 97,000 kgs. What do we do now? Ha, beta? Will you divide 5 lakhs by 97,000 or 96,000? 97. Raw materials cannot have an abnormal gain. You will divide it. We will see that beta there's an abnormal gain concept in process costing बोल के एक अलग chapter आएगा. But normally in materials there cannot be abnormal gain. If the actual are better than the standards as such, guys, that means there was something wrong with that normal loss only. समझ में आ रहा है? The fact that you were terming that normally there will be a loss of 4%, there's something wrong with that normal loss limit only, and that needs to be reviewed. You will not write 5 lakhs divided by 96,000. You're going to write 5 lakhs divided by 97,000. Are we all understanding this? ये MCQ में भी आ चुका है, not in the main exam, but in some RTP or MTP. They've given a case like this, wherein we'll have to compute cost per kg where there was an abnormal gain and not an abnormal loss. You end up dividing it better by the actual quantity received, irrespective of whether you're hiding your face or not. Are we understanding this? Yes or no? Any doubt in this? Understood what is the treatment of normal loss? What do you do with normal loss? Automatically adjust it to the cost of the remaining good units. What will you do with abnormal loss? Transfer to P&L account. Do not include it in the cost of the remaining units. It can be employee cost, it can be material, it can be anything. Alright guys, लिखो बेटा siding. Based on normality of cost. Based on normality of cost, that on expenses are segregated into expenses are segregated into normal and abnormal, expenses are segregated into normal and abnormal. Normal expenses or are on account of normal expenses are on account of the nature of the production process nature of the production process or the nature of the product nature of the production process or the nature of the product any expenditure incurred over and above the normal cost any expenditure incurred over and above the normal cost will be termed as abnormal. Will be termed as abnormal. Any expenditure over and above the normal cost beta will be termed as abnormal. All avoidable expenses, all avoidable expenses, all avoidable expenses, all avoidable expenses will be abnormal. All avoidable expenses will be abnormal. Scale नहीं है मेरा. All avoidable expenses beta will be abnormal. Unavoidable expenses, unavoidable expenses, unavoidable expenses will be classified as normal or abnormal. Will be classified as normal or abnormal, normal or abnormal, based on the nature of expenditure, based on the nature of expenditure. Based on the nature of expenditure. Next line better. Loss on account of earthquake. Loss on account of earthquake is unavoidable, is unavoidable, is unavoidable, but will be abnormal in nature. Is unavoidable, but will be abnormal in nature. Abnormal in nature. You write patient prescriptions. Will be abnormal in nature. Next beta, next line. The cost of normal loss, the cost of normal loss should always be adjusted. The cost of normal loss should always be adjusted. Should always be adjusted. Should always be adjusted to the cost of, क्या बेटा? Remaining good units. To the cost of the remaining good units. Cost of the remaining good units. Abnormal losses cannot be included. Abnormal losses cannot be included. Abnormal losses cannot be included, as it will increase, as it will increase the value of inventory, as it will increase the value of inventory. Example. Normal working hours 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Normal working hours 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Employees are paid at the rate of 125 per hour. Employees are paid at the rate of 125 per hour. Employees are paid at the rate of 125 per hour. So total wages per day will be, total wages per day will be 125 into 9, 1125. 125 into 9, 1125. the effective working hours in a day, the effective working hours in a day, the effective working hours in a day are only 8. The effective working hours in a day are only 8. Loss of 1 hour is considered normal. Loss of 1 hour is considered normal. Loss of 1 hour is considered normal. Rate per hour for allocation of expenses will be, rate per hour for wage allocation will be, what will you write beta? 11 kitna tha? 1125 na? 1125 divided by 8 hours. Rate per hour for wage allocation, guys, will be 1125 divided by 8 hours. How much will that be? 140.625. 140.625. This for your understanding as such, beta. This includes two components if you see. 125 was the basic wage rate, but that got increased by 15.625. That is nothing but that 1 hour that we wasted costed us 125 rupees, but that is being apportioned to the remaining 8 hours. That 125 rupees is the cost of normal loss. That cost of normal loss, if you adjust it to the remaining 8 hours, it will increase the rate of the remaining 8 hours by 15.625. Are we clear about this? Next line better. Next line. If the actual working hours are only 6, if the actual working hours are only 6, actual working hours are only 6, the additional 2 hours lost will be considered as abnormal. The additional 2 hours lost will be considered as abnormal. The additional 2 hours lost will be considered as abnormal. Will be considered as abnormal. Wage rate for allocation, wage rate for allocation will still be, wage rate for allocation will still be 1125 divided by 8 hours. Wage rate for allocation will still be 1125 divided by 8 hours, which is 140.625. So by doing this, we are ensuring that the cost of those 2 hours beta is not being included or not being allocated to any product. Alright, if you write 1125 by 6 hours, the cost of those abnormal hours also will automatically get adjusted to the remaining good units, which is incorrect. Are you getting it, guys? Next beta. Next example. Materials purchased. Materials purchased. 1 lakh kgs at 5 rupees, 5 lakh rupees. 1 lakh kgs at 5 rupees, 5 lakhs. Normal transit loss. Normal transit loss 4%. So the quantity, normal quantity better, should have been how much? 1 lakh minus 4%, 96,000. Let's say, guys, that the actual quantity received is 94,000. What will happen? The difference 2,000 beta will become abnormal loss. So when you now determine the effective cost per kg, you're going to write that 5 lakh rupees will be allocated to 1 lakh kgs or 96,000 or 94,000. 96,000 kgs. You will apportion that 5 lakh rupees beta to 96,000 kgs. Are we clear about this? How much will that become beta? 5.208. छोटा अमाउंट है बोल के 4 डेसिमल पॉइंट बेटा. 5.2083 will be the effective cost per kg. We will learn later what will happen if that normal loss has a scrap value. sometimes it may happen that though it is normal loss, it may still fetch us some value. If it is fetching us that value better, we will have to adjust that sale proceeds also. जैसे तुम लोग फाउंडेशन में पढ़े sale of scrap, you take that aside better in your manufacturing account and reduce it from the total cost incurred. Similarly guys, अभी के लिए बेटा cost per kg would be 5 lakh rupees divided by 96,000 kgs, 5.2083. Any doubt in this? समझ गए guys? Now what if the actual quantity received beta is 97,000? Then just write, we do not consider abnormal gains. So that is why cost per kg would be, we do not consider abnormal gains in procurement of materials. So cost per kg will be 5 lakhs divided by 97,000 kgs. 5.154. Okay? 6. 5.1546 will become the effective cost per kg. Actual quantity received is 97,000 kgs beta. Based on that, you're going to write 5 lakhs divided by 97,000. Are we all clear about this? Backbenchers ho gaya hai? The fact that you can avoid it, that means it is not arising on account of the nature of the production process. अब ये मत बोलना that if you do not manufacture anything, everything will become avoidable. It is not in relation to the decision guys of whether you will manufacture or not. If it is something that is not required to be incurred as such guys for the manufacturing of the product and you're still incurring it, then it is abnormal. It is not normal. It has to be in relation to the product. Now guys, one more category beta. Kitne categories हुए? Next number is what? Next is 7 guys. So based on controllability of expenses, we divide the total expenses beta into controllable cost and uncontrollable cost. बेचारे ये उम्मीद में थे कि शायद हो गया है बोल के. So we divide the overall expenses into controllable and uncontrollable. तू बेटा जो कल लेट आई थी, हाँ, what's your name? तू बोल बेटा, what are controllable and uncontrollable? तेरे को लगा ना ब्रेक दे रहा बोल के अभी, जल्दी बोल. हाँ, yes, the prima facie answer that all of us would think about beta is from the viewpoint of the organization, but this concept is not from the viewpoint of the organization, it is from the viewpoint of a specific department. If an expenditure is controllable for that department head, you call that as controllable expenditure, otherwise it will become uncontrollable cost. Now what is the reason behind dividing the overall expenses into controllable and uncontrollable is, whenever you evaluate the performance of any division guys, cost sheet of division might include expenses which are not in the control of that departmental head. If you're including those expenses and then evaluating the performance of any individual or any department, then it is not appropriate. Just let us say beta that there is head office cost, and that head office cost is being allocated to different product lines. Ultimately every cost will be allocated. Okay? Head office cost increased all of a sudden by 50%, and that is why the cost allocation to each product line also increased, and that is why the profitability of departments reduced. Our department head sir maar raha hai, I did everything right, in spite of that profit reduced because something that was not in my control, a higher share of that expenditure was allocated to my product line. Yes or no? Will it be appropriate to include those expenses? I'm not talking about determining profitability, but only for performance evaluation. For performance evaluation, we should not be taking that expenses. So ये जो controllable and uncontrollable है बेटा, it is not from the viewpoint of the entire organization, it is from the viewpoint of a specific department. I am looking at the total production cost of a product. That production cost as such guys also includes employee cost, it includes material cost. Obviously, how much material is to be consumed is within the control of production manager, but not the price that is being paid for the raw material. Who is responsible for that? Purchase manager. What is the amount of time that is spent by each employee? I can question the production manager. What is the rate per hour as such beta that was negotiated by the human resource department is not in my control. समझ में आ रहा है नहीं आ रहा है? So whenever you're evaluating the performance of any individual, you should only include controllable. You should know what is that person responsible for, or what portion of expenses better that can that person control. Include only those expenses for the purpose of performance evaluation. It becomes easier to delegate responsibility. It becomes easier to evaluate performances if you divide these expenses into controllable and uncontrollable. Are we all clear about this? So remember, it is not from the viewpoint of the entire organization. It is only from the viewpoint of a specific department. You cannot go and question the production manager, guys, about the total cost of a product if that includes selling and distribution expenses also. What if the marketing department has significantly increased marketing expenditure? Can the total cost of a product increase? Yes, profitability can come down, but that is not because the production expenditure is changing. It is because other components of the total cost has increased or decreased. Are we all clear about this? Yes or no? Likho beta ye bhi. Based on controllability of expenses. Based on controllability. Based on controllability. Controllability. The classification is not from the viewpoint of the entire organization. The classification is not from the viewpoint of the classification is not from the viewpoint of the entire organization. Not from the viewpoint of the entire organization. For performance evaluation, next line. For performance evaluation of a specific department, for performance evaluation of a specific department, we should only include expenses. We should only include expenses. We should only include expenses that are within the control of. We should only include expenses that are within the control of. Within the control of the department. The overall cost data of a department. The overall cost data of a department. The overall cost data of a department will include both controllable and uncontrollable expenses. Will include both controllable and uncontrollable expenses. Uncontrollable expenses. Uncontrollable के bracket में बेटा share of common expenses allocated. Uncontrollable के brackets उसके बाजू brackets में share of common expenses allocated. Share of common expenses allocated. Share of common expenses allocated. ठीक है, next line. For a production manager, the total quantity of material used will be controllable expenditure. The total quantity of material used will be controllable. The total quantity of material used will be controllable. Total quantity of material used will be controllable. But not the price at which the material was procured. But not the price at which the material was procured. But not the price at which the material was procured. क्या आयुष डाउट है कुछ? But not the price at which the material was procured. Are we all clear about this? That's it for this class. But you guys have a break. We'll continue with FM after the break. Online students, end of the session. See you guys after the break. Bye bye.